Hi, I'm DC, your host of Best in Blue, right here on the Kazuki Network. Best in Blue is a collaborative effort formed in partnership with the Memphis Police Department and the Kazuki Network to bring you a transparent view of the inner workings of the Memphis Police Department and the fine men and women who go out every day and night protecting and serving our great city. You will hear from officers and department leaders about the latest trends in combating crime in your neighborhoods and the latest efforts surrounding community policing and performance. Now, on today's show, we are going to shed some light on what the FBI designates as an active shooter event. Some of the more noted active shooter events are Sandy Hook, Las Vegas, Virginia Tech, Columbine, and many more. These situations strike very close to home. Education and preparation is the key. So today on Best in Blue, we're going to delve into the subject with our Best in Blue. They will walk us through some of the scenarios that we only happen to see as citizens after the fact. Unfortunately, many of our large urban areas and even some of our smaller cities have had to come to grips with persons causing mass casualties that may or may not have been on law enforcement's radar. Today on Best in Blue, we will give you some of the helpful tips on what you should do if you find yourself in the midst of active shooter scenarios. Remember, many of these persons who become active shooters have purchased a weapon of choice legally. So it's vitally important that if we as friends or family see something, say something. Please say something. It may be the difference between life and death. So stick around for Best in Blue right here on the Kazuki Network.
Best in blue for you. Best in blue. Best in blue for you.
Best in Blue, connecting you to the everyday inner workings of the Memphis Police Department.
Best in blue. Best in blue for you. Best in blue. Best in blue for you. Best in blue. Best in blue for you.
I'm DC, and we're back here on Best in Blue, here on the Kazuki Network. And today we're discussing active shooter events. Joining us from our very own Memphis Police Department is Sergeant Darryl Banks and Officer Robert Carlson. And they're here to shed some light on the active shooter scenarios and events. Sergeant Banks and Officer Carlson, welcome to Best in Blue.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Great, we're glad to have you here. First of all, I want you to force Officer Carlson to explain to us or define what the FBI considers an active shooter and what are some of the active shooter events that we've incurred over, I guess, the last few years here that you can recall.
Well, it's actually a really good question because there's a lot of times that people don't even really understand what an active shooter event really is. So the FBI defines an active shooter as an individual that's actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a confined and populated area. Now that leaves kind of a lot of room. So when we do our statistical studies, we rule out events that we consider to have either like a domestic violence motive or a drug or a gang motive, because we consider that to have kind of a preceding motive beyond just the random killing that we see in an active shooter.
All right, so Sergeant Banks, with respect to 2017 and I guess maybe some prior years, how many active shooter events have occurred here on our soil here in Memphis?
Well, according to the FBI standard of what's defined as an active shooter, we have not had any in Memphis.
Wow.
However,
none in Memphis at all?
None at all in Memphis.
Okay.
So we've been blessed with that.
Yes.
But across the states, we have noticed that there's definitely been an increase in active shooter victims. And that was readily seen in Las Vegas, where we had 58 deaths and 489 victims in that shooting by itself.
Well, you know, Sergeant Banks and Officer Carlson, I want to make sure that we quantify this for our viewers. How often do we have these active shooter events occur on our soil here in America? You know, I mean, I want to talk about Memphis, but also we know that since we've not had any in Memphis, they're happening somewhere.
Right. Well, unfortunately, the reality is these are on the increase.
Yeah.
In the last several years, we have seen an uptake in active shooter events. We went from only having 12 a year in 2012. Now we're averaging almost 20 a year across the United States, and that number's held for the last 5 years. So it is becoming more and more frequent. So it's hard to narrow down exactly a specific time frame that they occur in, but you can look at it just on those annual numbers, and they're unfortunately happening several a month across the entire country.
Okay, so across the country, we've had about 20 or so over the last year. But now, how long do these events last? I mean, is it something that you get on the scene and it's a 2-day process, or is it oftentimes where this shooter has done something and you all come in and you I guess, save the day, so to speak?
Right. All right. Usually the active shooter event itself lasts between 5 and 8 minutes. Law enforcement has a response time of about 4 minutes. So quite often by the time the officers get there, the shooting event itself is usually over with.
In actuality, in almost half of the events, the event will be over before the first police officer even really gets to the scene.
And so can we also say, with respect to what we've seen as of late, and I would say maybe some of the shootings that occurred on some of the school campuses, they were pretty quickly, I guess, handled by law enforcement.
Yes.
But also the shooter either committed suicide or was taken down by the department.
Well, and that's the reality with most of these events is a large percentage of the time the shooter is going to take his own life.
Wow.
But in a vast majority of them, the outcome is really going to be dependent on how the victims that are in the scene, how they react, what they do to try and protect themselves and keep themselves safe, and then the timely response of law enforcement. The faster we can get a police officer inside of that crisis event, then the better chance that we have of safely and successfully handling that situation.
So, Sergeant Banks, with respect to response times, locally, and I guess we can only talk about this in terms of what our planning has been with our department. From a local perspective, the response times, I'm sure that if there was a call that came through that there is a possible active shooting event occurring in the city of Memphis, those times are sped up. In other words, the response is great.
Yes, absolutely. The response is great. And with that being said, the county mayor, Mark Luxrell, has decided to convene a school safety task force in which he's gotten other city officials together to work on the aspect that we want to make sure that our children are safe, and we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that everybody that's involved in this is on the same page for the safety of the children.
And so this is a task force set up in Memphis and Shelby County that will address some of those questions that maybe other communities have had, the what ifs.
Correct.
Or can we pre-plan, so to speak, in case something like this occurs? Is that right? Not right?
Yeah, a lot of the things that influence how these events can happen take place far before the event even actually occurs. The pre-planning, the preparation, the education, the getting the community involved, all of that, the more you can do that on the front end, the more that you, your school, your church, your business, whoever, is going to be set up for success if, unfortunately, they find themselves the victim of one of these horrific events.
Absolutely.
Wow. I'm DC right here on Best in Blue. We'll be right back.
Brought to you by the Memphis Police Department. The Best in Blue. Visit joinmpd.com.
I watch y'all coming here for years, cause you shot somebody. Now your life is shot. Real talk. Don't lose your head, use your head, man. Gun crime, max, time.
I was in the presence of him and some more of his friends. Things went south, and
And you had to give that person some advice. What would you say?
don't lose your head, use your head, man.
Politics is on. DC and Davenport on the throne. Politics for the young and old. They won't stop till they reach their goal.
I'm honored to be a part of Funky Politics.
Funky politics for me and you. So sit back and enjoy the show. The Kazuki Network, let's go.
Memphis 911, do you need police, fire, or ambulance?
This is Memphis Police Director Michael Rollins.
And Fire Director Gina Sweat. Every false alarm call takes minutes away from 911 dispatchers and the police and fire departments.
We can save millions of dollars and help keep police officers, firefighters, and paramedics responding to true emergencies if you help us reduce false alarms.
Learn more about Operation FAR at www.metroalarms.org.
Best in Blue, connecting you, the listener, to the everyday inner workings of the Memphis Police Department.
Best in blue, best in blue for you. Best in blue, best in blue for you. Best in blue, best in blue for you.
We're back with Best in Blue here on the Kazukia Network. I'm your host, DC, and we're having a conversation with two of Memphis's finest, Officer Robert Carlson and Sergeant Darryl Banks. Active shooter events have taken place all over our country, oftentimes affecting both rural and urban communities. You know, Officer Carlson, what are some of the signs that a person may be thinking about becoming an active shooter that you can share with us?
Well, DC, it's a great question because a lot of times if we can pick up on some of these warning signs early on and maybe get this person help, we might be able to prevent an incident from even taking place. So a lot of the times that we have seen in previous events, people kind of starting to socially isolate themselves, whether it be pulling away from groups that maybe they were normally pretty active in, or just kind of a general isolation away from other people. They try and really kind of become very introverted. Additionally, other than that, we see an increase in outbursts of anger, people that start rationalize dealing with their problems through negative ways, and that becomes almost a social kind of norm for them. And then we start seeing, as it starts to progress and gets closer to the event, we start seeing things like empathizing with people that maybe have committed violent acts before, specifically other active shooters. We've seen a lot of times where people that have committed one of these events, they start spending a lot of time researching and reading up on previous active shooter events, and almost start kind of placing these people that have done these almost on a pedestal. And so they start thinking that maybe they can do this, and in a way it almost becomes a competition where they think that maybe they can do better than the person. So they really start becoming obsessed with those acts of violence. And then they start becoming kind of fascinated with firearms or weapons, and not saying that just because somebody's interested in weapons that's an issue.
That's
but
right.
But when you combine all of those things together, and you've got somebody that becomes obsessed with weaponry, and they start empathizing with those people that have done these events before, and then they start withdrawing away from their normal social or family networks, you've got a huge problem on your hands.
Well, let me stop you right there, because I know that is the FBI's a part of the protocol training and
Yes.
what you just walked us through. But in your personal experience, and especially in your training with, because you've done this all over the country, no doubt, with other
Yes.
officers and other agencies, have you seen that when you all dissected that particular case, whether it was Sandy Hook, or was it, whether it was the piece in Charleston, or maybe, I don't want to say Columbine, but as I pronounce it incorrectly, but have you all seen that is the case with some of these younger shooters that we've seen?
Yeah, a lot of times, especially with these younger shooters, they feel almost like they're kind of outcast from society.
Wow.
They feel like they've been kind of bullied, and in their head, they're actually the good guy. They're getting vengeance for some sort of wrongdoing that was done against them. And so we kind of coined the term Avenger mentality when we talk about active shooter psychological profiling. But yeah, so especially in these younger shooters, they feel like that people are bullying them, or that they've just become estranged from normal society, and this is the acceptable way that they're going to lash out against that.
So Sergeant Banks, even we've seen all of this played out before, not only in our rural but our urban communities where a lot of these active shooter events have occurred. There was a component in them that most of them that's I think that you can look at, and that was this social media piece. And a lot of people say, well, you as a parent, you should have known. Well, some parents don't know. What can we do as a community of people, or as a faith community, as any of us, law-abiding citizens, what can we do to help in a situation when we know a young person possibly looks like they're straying that way that Officer Carlson was talking about, but they're using the social media platform to get their messages out there?
Well, this kind of goes to the old saying, if you see something, say something.
Wow, yes. Yes.
Okay, quite often they are using social media as a platform to almost like their manifesto to get out there and say what they're thinking, how they're feeling, what they're wanting to do. And you know, it's sad to say this, but on social media, you'll see when in hindsight they have 25 likes or 50 likes or 1,000 likes. Wow. So that means people are seeing that these people are saying these things that they're wanting to do, and nobody is saying anything about them.
And on this negative behavior, I'm liking it, or I'm doing the smiley face or the wow, but I saw it, but I didn't say anything.
Correct. Absolutely.
A lot of times people think, oh, they weren't serious. They didn't mean it.
Right.
In today's day and age, you have to take every threat as though it might be real. It's better to err on the side of caution and tell somebody.
I don't want to frighten our viewers, but I want to make sure that we quantify this thing, that we've got issues like this that have been going on in our communities. Thank God in Memphis, we've not had any active shooter events. But are there places that we should be extra special vigilant in today's time? I mean, just from the real.
Yeah, there obviously every place is vulnerable to one of these types of events. However, most people oftentimes think schools and churches, because of the events that have been recently occurring, that's where it's going to happen. The reality is businesses or workplace violence is really going to be the leading location. Now, obviously, churches and schools, that's when you're talking about children, defenseless kids, or people that are there to worship. That's far more heartbreaking. Yeah. But they are still kind of the statistical anomaly to a degree. It's only around a quarter of the time that they take place in a school. But
those are the ones that have gotten a lot more play, especially lately, as we have gone through this piece here over the last few years, where you've seen this footage, this media footage of young children either walking out, arms on the neck's back, trying to get to safety, or these smaller kids in the Sandy Hook piece where, man, you got babies up there that have been basically slaughtered, and I guess that's the space that we're in right now. Is it, Sergeant Banks? Are we there now as a society?
Absolutely. I mean, it's unfortunate, but we have to serve as that in-between between the bad and the good. Yeah. The kids are innocent. They had no say-so in this. So as law enforcement, that's why we have decided to step up what's going on and to implement policies and standards to ensure the safety of our kids.
And I think we talked a little bit before about Mayor Luttrell, and I think Mayor Strickland and the local law enforcement leadership have come together with a task force to ensure that we have protocols in place.
Yes.
That when things like this, God forbid they happen in the city of Memphis or Shelby County, but that we're prepared to at least to make sure there's as little loss of life as possible that would occur, I would imagine. That's what this task force ought to be, if not set up to do.
Yes.
Absolutely. It is.
Wow. Okay. As I said before, it's riveting, but it's something that we've got to talk about, and this conversation has got to keep going on, folks. You're listening and you're looking at Best in Blue, because this is the best program in town, folks, right here on the Kazukia Network.
Brought to you by the Memphis Police Department, the Best in Blue. Visit joinmpd.com.
Live in Memphis? Need assistance. Finding help is easy when you make the right call. Meet John and his family. They are new to the community, but they need help. Are they making the right call? For life-threatening emergencies only, of course, John would call 911. But not for noise complaints or things like loose dogs, vacant lots with weeds, and garbage collection. That's 311. Call 311 when you don't know where to turn for city services. Call 211 for things like home care support, mental health, employment services, community programs, housing and income supports, and so much more. That's 211. Call 211 when you need non-emergency health and human services help. Whether it's 311, 211, or 911. Finding help is easy when you make the right call.
Best in blue for you. Best in blue. Best in blue for you.
Best in Blue. Connecting you, the listener, to the everyday inner workings of the Memphis Police Department.
Best in blue. Best in blue for you. Best in blue. Best in blue for you.
I watch y'all coming here for years, cause you shot somebody. Now your life is shot. Real talk. Don't lose your head, use your head, man. Gun crime, max, time.
I was in the presence of him and some more of his friends. Things went south, and
And you had to give that person some advice. What would you say?
Don't lose your head, use your head, man.
Politics is on. DC and Davenport on the throne. Politics for the young and old. They won't stop till they reach their goal.
I'm honored to be a part of Funky Politics.
Funky politics for me and you. So sit back and enjoy the show. The Kazuki Network, let's go.
Hey, I'm DC. You're back with us here on Best in Blue, right here on the Kazuki Network. And you know, we had a great conversation, and we're talking to some friends of ours from the Memphis Police Department regarding active shooter events. We've got Sergeant Darryl Banks here, and we got Officer Robert Carlson. And gentlemen, let me just get into the nuts and bolts of active shooter events and how our community can support the police department in the efforts that you all are endeavoring in to try to assist us by keeping us safe and secure. Let's talk a little bit about your work with community associations and also churches, because I would imagine some of the softer targets in our communities that maybe those active shooters would probably abreast themselves up to try to cause maximum damage. So, Officer Carlson?
Well, any organization, whether it be a business or a school or a church, anybody that's wanting to better prepare themselves to be ready in case one of these events, we have training that's out there. We want to get out and work with the community, and we offer a training program that's the federal recognized and certified training program where we get out and we teach the strategies on how to prepare, how to set yourself up for success as far as plans and strategies, and then how to react. You know, what do you do if you suddenly find yourselves in one of these events? We give you some survival strategies using an acronym we call Avoid, Deny, and Defend. And
can you say that again?
Yeah, it's called Avoid, Deny, and Defend.
Avoid, Deny.
Yeah, and in its simplest form, the best way to avoid being a victim, don't be there.
Correct.
We're trying to teach you how to get out of an event, and then if that's not possible, how to deny access to yourself, make yourself that hard target, if you will. And then lastly, if you're directly faced with the intruder or your life is in danger, to defend yourself, to fight back against that threat that's trying to harm you. And so we go out and work with anybody that wants this training. And so any organization, we don't care who it is. We don't even care if they're in the city limits of Memphis.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll go
fantastic.
anywhere and do this. All they have to do is just make the request.
Well, let me stop you right there. Sergeant Banks, with regard to avoid, deny, and defend, and the denial part, I imagine, is if you're in it already, get behind, I'm assuming a locked door or a room or something.
Correct.
Like,
you want to create some kind of barrier between you and them. If you can lock a door, lock a door. If you can't lock the door, barricade the door.
Yeah.
Put chairs, tables, anything you can find in front of the door. Again, the mindset behind that is to deny them access to you. Find some way to stop them from getting into the room that you're in. Best means possible.
So, and Officer Carlson, I got to ask you about defend.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't have avoid, deny, and not have defend. No. So you're there, and you can't deny the person. Now,
fight back through whatever means you have available. Look, whatever improvised weapons you have, whatever tools and resources you have at your disposal. Someone's trying to kill you. You've got a moral, ethical, even in some cases legal obligation to try and fight back and defend yourselves. And so that's what we try and go out and do, is to give people the strategies to best able to do that.
So churches, community associations, businesses, schools,
take your pick.
I mean, a group of people that live in a small neighborhood. Can they call somewhere? Can they go somewhere to get you all to come out and talk to them?
All they have to do is call the Memphis Police Department firing range. I know it seems a little weird, but that just happens to be where all of our instructors are headquartered.
That's where I'd like for y'all to be. I want somebody to come get me.
So all they have to do is call us. Our phone number is 636-1680, and it's free of cost, where we'll come out and work with you.
Say that number again,
636-1680.
Wow. You heard it right here first, folks. Right here on Best in Blue on the Kazuki Network.
I watch y'all coming here for years, cause you shot somebody. Now your life is shot. Real talk. Don't lose your head, use your head, man. Gun crime, max. Time.
I was in the presence of him and some more of his friends. Things went south, and
And you had to give that person some advice. What would you say?
Don't lose your head, use your head, man.
Politics is on. DC and death ward on the throne. Politics for the young and old. They won't stop till they reach their goal.
I'm honored to be a part of Funky Politics.
Funky politics for me and you. So sit back and enjoy the show. The Kazuki Network, let's go.
That is not a trash can.
I hope my dad doesn't fish there.
Storm drains lead to our rivers.
As a host of Best in Blue, I get to talk to the Memphis Police Department leadership and the officers who place that badge on their chest every day, and how their work impacts and enhances our community's livability. What happens when loved ones and or friends commit heinous crimes without regard to life? That's when we stand tall as a community, pulling together, wrapped in love and our faith, and we begin the healing process. Columbine, Las Vegas, Orlando, and Charleston are just a few places that real Americans fell prey to other Americans. My fellow citizens, we are much better than that. Please, if you see something, please say something, even if it's your son, friend, and even daughter. Memphis, we faced far taller hurdles, and know that divided we fall, but together we're better. I'm DC, and I will see you real soon right here on Best in Blue on the Kazuki Network.
That is not a trash can.
I hope my dad doesn't fish there.
Storm drains lead to our rivers.
Do you want greater travel flexibility on your bicycle? Then MATA encourages you to bike and ride. All MATA buses are now equipped with bike racks that allow you to load your bike onto the front of the bus and catch a ride to your destination. Bike racks have space for 2 conventional bicycles, including children's bikes. The racks are self-service and easy to use. Trolleys don't have bike racks, but you can always carry your bike on board as long as there's space available. For more information on MATA's bike racks, visit matatransit.com.
When you're running your own business and taking care of your disabled brother, you tend to learn about responsibility pretty quickly.